top 5 rogue decks of the format. Starting out, we have Rockets. Now, there are several things that this deck has going for them. We got to talk about the skill first. Yesterday, in our top 5 best decks video, we talked about how skills that give you multiple pluses for free are just extremely powerful and are going to be a huge benefit, and this deck is no different. Getting a free boot sector launch to the field that can give you multiple pluses afterwards, as well as that link monster in your graveyard that comes back to the field, you immediately get 2 pluses from the skill, plus the ability to get many more off the boot sector launch if you can stick it to the board. But also, this deck has a really good main deck monsters that have nice effects to go with them as well. All of them outside of Tracer have that little floating effect that when they're destroyed, during the end phase, you get to summon another one from your deck. And you can actually trigger that, of course, with your Rocket Tracer that can target any face-up card you control, destroy it to summon a rocket from your deck. That's going to allow you to dodge your opponent's trap and their interruption effects. But you also still have room in this deck for triple Book of Moon, as well as all the trap cards in this deck, including the Needle Ceiling, which can trigger your rocket monster effects. We also have the 3 quick launch in here. 3 emergency teleport for the deck is really nice. Plus, we have a really diverse extra deck here. One, we're using the whole rainbow of monsters here, right? We got fusions, synchros, XYZs, and links, but we got powerful monsters in here. Draco Berserker, the Tenyi, can negate monster effects and go up to over 4k to OTK your opponent. We got the Void Ogre Dragon in here, able to negate spell and trap effects. We got Evil Swarm Nightmare to shut down our opponent's special summons. Borolo Dragon in here to help OTK our opponent. So a lot of good things that Rockets have going for them. I expect to see several in the top cut for the KC Cup. Next up, we have Orchest. I won't spend a lot of time on this deck because I'm sure a lot of players are sick and tired of seeing it. It still seems to survive despite all the banless hits that this deck has taken, both as a pure deck and as an engine for other decks. I do expect this deck to do pretty well in the KC Cup, though, in both of those forms, especially because unlike tournaments where you have a side deck, you don't have options of those kind of side deck cards, right? You don't specifically System Down. System Down really devastates this deck as well as a lot of other machine decks in the metagame. If you're not familiar with it, it basically banishes all machines on your opponent's side of the board and from your graveyard. If you haven't seen it before, it's probably because you are not playing a lot of tournaments and you're playing on ladder where people just aren't able to run this card in ranked play or in KC Cup because you play a lot of things besides machines, and it's not very good against anything, or it's not any good against anything but machines. So, but without having to worry about System Down, I do expect Orcust to do pretty well in this tournament, as well as a few other machine decks as well that aren't going to have to worry about that threat, including infinitrack, another deck that can, another machine deck that will benefit from not having to see System Down from the side deck, but also has a great OTK ability too, right? During the KC Cup, the more matches you play, the better, no matter what even if you keep the same win rate percentage. Like if you have like a 50 win percent rate, the more games you play, the more beneficial it's going to be for you, right? So if you play 500 games, you'll be higher ranked than if you only play 200 games, even if you have the exact same win rate. And so any deck that can finish off your opponent really fast and get OTKs really quickly is going to be a huge benefit to have in the KC Cup. And infinitrack does that really well, given the fact that they have a monster that can go up to 6,000 attack points and then attack multiple times. So the Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon is going to be a really quick way to end games, give this deck some wins, and it also is still a pretty strong deck, right? It got support pretty recently, just a couple months ago. Not a ton, but it did get just a little bit more support to help go along with it. You have the Searcher for the deck with the heavy forward, able to get whatever you need to hand. Plus, you still have room for Book of Moon, anti-back row cards like Cosmic Cyclone, and a full set of the 3 of trap cards, plus plenty of more trap cards in this deck as well. So you got a lot of good things going for infinitrack, and I definitely expect to see several within the top cut of the KC Cup. Next up, we have Gandora. This is another deck that, again, is going to benefit from System Down not being in the KC Cup. No side deck format here. And again, another OTK deck that can finish off your opponents really quickly. Gandora is one of the best monsters in the game for doing that, being able to banish your opponent's entire field and their graveyard, and obviously going up to well over 4k attack points and swinging through and finishing off your opponent. But we're combining it with that Orchest engine in this deck. It's still extremely powerful. And we have the Dark Arm Dragon here in this deck, just giving us a little bit of that extra OTK potential. Anytime we see Dark Arm Dragon in a deck, it makes me a fan of it, a huge fan of it from back in the TCG. So glad to see this card still seeing use and finding a home here in the metagame here in Duel Links. But expect to see several Gandora within the top cut, as well as it just fits all the qualifications, right, that you want to see in a KC Cup deck. Being able to finish off your opponents quickly, banish whatever they have on their side of the board really easily, wipe it all out. I definitely expect to see Gandora perform pretty well in this KC Cup and at least take a few spots in there. And then for the last spot, I had a lot of trouble picking what deck I wanted to go into this final spot, as I felt like the first four were a lot easier to pick, and this final spot could have gone to Toons, Necros, Elemental Heroes, but I ended up picking Gimmick Puppets in this final place because they have been doing fairly well in tournaments recently, and on ladder they've been taking a few spots as well, but they've been doing pretty good in tournaments, and that's even with the fact that System Down was around. So I expect here in a format where they don't have to worry about that card, that Gimmick Puppet will continue to be one of the top 10 decks, and will probably be, I think, a real competitive threat here that you'll have to worry about if you're playing in the KC Cup. They, of course, got a boost really recently with their skill, now allowing them to use a wider variety of rank 8 monsters than before. More specifically, they have access to the Duel now, just one of the best removal cards in the game, being able to send something from your opponent's side of the board to the graveyard without destroying it, without targeting it. So Duel is a great addition to the deck, and I definitely expect to see some Gimmick Puppets in there, right? They have a lot of good cards going for the deck as well, a lot of ways to very quickly make rank 8s and even rank 4s as well, and the ability to still run a wide range of back row cards, anti-back row cards, Book of Moon. Like, they're still able to fit in several into their deck, so I do expect to see Gimmick Puppets being a pretty, not extremely popular, but still I expect to see them snag a couple spots within the top cut here, as well as those other decks that I mentioned. I mentioned Toons, Necros. I think things like that could take a spot as well, and who knows, maybe we'll see Toons in the next top 5 budget video that we have coming out, hint hint. So but if you guys did like the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. It definitely helps out the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of the day.